all of the rulers that we think were white people were not white people. That's why they had what's called the Renaissance era, where they would take all the images of the black people and then just paint them white.
Real life. It ain't real life. Just ain't real life. Street Starz. You know what time it is.
Yep. So let me ask you, was Jesus black?
Man, you asking a good question now. I mean,
and I asked you that because if Jesus is black, that means Judas was black too.
Yeah.
That means that black man turned on that black man.
Yeah, he did. But now, before you get the Judas part, if Jesus is black, that means his mama black.
Come on.
His daddy black.
Come on.
That means his tribe is black.
Come on.
And it's a bunch of niggas in the Bible. That's the only thing it could be. Before we get to Judas, listen, Judas betrayed Christ. Like anybody can betray anybody. And that can happen anywhere. We see white people we see Democrats and Republicans, which are white people, go at it every day. So what Judas did to Christ is not an anomaly like nobody's ever turned on their own. It's not.
Money existed at that time.
Exactly. The greatest lesson we can learn is that watch niggas that lust over money. You have to watch men. If money is their power, if money is what drives them, then you got to understand there is no morality. There is no code of ethic. There is nothing. So yes, Judas betrayed Christ. Just like when Julius Caesar got killed, he got killed by his own peers. Anybody can turn on anybody. That's true. But the most important part about Jesus being black, back to your experiment, that episode of Good Times, when that young boy brought that black Jesus in there, that mama said, my Jesus is white. The brother reads out the Bible. He got skin of bronze, hair like wool. Even though he's reading out, the only place you're going to find out about Jesus is in this book. That's like, if we want to find out about Horus, Heru, we want to find out about Julius Caesar, you can only go to the records of the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians. So we talk about the people in the Bible, you can only go to the book of the Bible. So he reads that to her. And even though he's reading to her verbatim what Jesus looks like and who he is, because that experiment is so embedded in our brains, it's impossible for us to believe Jesus is.
Damn it. Do you think we need to go to like, because social media exists now. Like now, I know you could Google Earth everything and see. Like, do you feel like because it was such a far away, fantastical world they painted of Jerusalem and things of that nature, that you would probably think it's a bunch of white people walking around in all the pictures they painted. Right. You think we just need to, not saying visit, but just be open or be taught that, no, this area, you will not find white people in this area.
Yeah, like if get into our history class. Mondays is our history class. If you go to ishbk.com, you can learn that history. We teach this history. You ever heard of the Dark Ages?
Yes.
If you go to the Dark Ages of Europe, the reason why the white man called it the Dark Ages is because niggas was ruling and or black people was ruling, he was in his low state. He was not ruling. So the King James, the Beethovens, the Constantine, all of the rulers that we think were white people were not white people. That's why they had what's called the Renaissance era, where they would take all the images of the black people and then just paint them white. But if you get a book called like The Russian Icons, it'll tell you, in the book called The Russian Icons, it'll tell you that this is the artwork that survived the whitewashing of the Renaissance era. That's just, now I just took you back 1,000 years in Europe, for just Europe. When you get into the Middle Eastern region, there's nothing in there historically that would say that these people were white people. The Egyptians, until the Ptolemies, there's a time in Egypt, especially even when they put out the movies like 10 Commandments and stuff like that, it's weird to me that all the other Africans are black, but the Egyptians, they just happen to be white. Just somebody break that. I just need the science behind that. It doesn't make sense. And even in movies like that, the reason why they make them white instead of black is because they do not want black people to have a realistic view of a perceived greatness, because most black people believe they're African. Can't have the Egyptians looking black, because if the Egyptians looking black, that might inspire these people that we've had sleep.
We were so kings.
Yeah, we were kings. That whole concept would be gone. Even when I visited Jerusalem, back in 2017, I went out there, was out there for like 14 days. And so you could see they'll try to sow like some truths, but for the most part, even they try to whitewash it. So really the only thing that you can do is actually learn that history. They always say the greatest way to keep something from a black person is keep it in a book. But in that book contains the very things that will free your mind. The Bible says it's high time to come out of sleep. And we just walking around sleep thinking that it's okay to live the American dream, not understanding the American dream will always include the white race that will dominate you. To bring it back to the beginning, Eminem would be the greatest rapper alive in no time. Just like Elvis is the father of rock and roll, just like the country music we was talking about, they try to make it seem like the founders were white people. When you do the history, you find out that those founders was taught by a black man.
Oh yeah, no, they're writing the history books. I mean, so they're gonna control it.
Even the Lone Ranger, I bring this up. The Lone Ranger, Tonto and that was a black sheriff.
Oh really?
That was a black sheriff and the black sheriff and the Indian were the real ones that they patterned that after.
Oh,
the cowboy, black people. Like when you do real, and this is important for all of black people to understand. Your history is richer than slavery. It's way richer.
What do you say to the black exploitation days of the movies, the 70s, the Foxy Browns, the Dolomites, the Mac? You know, when they make these black exploitation movies to where the movies was like an escape for, most all people, like a book. When you see that this is what they're painting when it comes to the pimps and the way we move, like, do you feel like that black exploitation era in Hollywood kind of gave us a false sense? Because I remember watching Shaka Zulu, the miniseries, and I'm like, man, this is powerful.
Right.
But then I also watch Roots, and I'm like, man, this is fucked up. Like shit, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, everyone that I talk to have seen Roots.
Right.
Not a lot of them have seen Shaka Zulu. They like, all right, we gonna put that out there. What do you feel about that time frame of Hollywood where they wanted to kind of create the narrative of what black people were based on just social commentary of
that's how you know what Hollywood is and what Hollywood isn't. The Shaka Zulu is anti-Hollywood. Roots is Hollywood. We was talking about this on the way down, saying how like we hate slave movies. I hate slave movies. The closest one is maybe Django, because Django had the opportunity where he was getting vengeance against white people, but with all the other things that they put in Django, was him killing a few white people worth it? Because it still keeps us, mentally oppressed. The black exploitation has the correct name, exploit, like black exploitation. So for the blacks trying to come up in Hollywood, and this is why it's important to you have to understand the mind state of white. Anytime you have a conversation with white people or go sit down with white people, you got to always say to yourself, what is their agenda? Because if you don't understand if you just walk in there like, man, we about to just make these movies and the white man gonna produce it. The white man gonna write it. Yeah, he directed, but this is our foot in. You lost control of the direction that it should go. So all you saw was a bunch of pimping, a bunch of hoeing, a bunch of things. And that's kind of like the blueprint that black people feel has to exist today. Most, like the days of, there's some movies, some black movies, Two could play that game, Brown Sugar. There's some movies that you can see capture a greater essence of a black movie. Because at the outset, it's just supposed to be entertainment at the outset. But like I said with the Black Panther movie, black movies, here's what black people suffer from such an identity crisis that there's never going to be a black movie that's made that's not taken to heart of the black person. So the dangerous thing that they did in the 70s was they made whoredom okay.
Yeah.
They made drug dealing okay. They made pimping okay. Superfly made it seem like selling drugs was the thing to do. And you know what was happening at the same time Superfly was coming out? They was flooding the black community with drugs. They was getting rid of the black father and creating the feminist movement. So the visual allowed the infiltration. We wanted to be Superfly.
Come on.
We wanted to be Scarface. Scarface came out, you ain't seen none of them Italians was already drug dealers, but you ain't seen nobody emulating Scarface more than black people. That movie Paid in Full said it best. When that movie Scarface came out, everybody wanted to do.
They showed it.
Everybody. Man, I want to be. Even though the director of Scarface, you know what his vision was? He wanted people to see that after all the drug dealing, he died, coked up, shot up.
Yeah.
That's the vision of the director. The brothers said, I'm going to be that.
Yeah, they turned the movie off right when he blew that grenade through the door. They're like, I'm going to stop it right there. Yeah, that's my life.
Right there. And so you got Pam Grier, Foxy Brown, but she's naked. She plays a pimp. She plays a prostitute. She plays a drug dealer. You got Jim Brown. All of them are playing things that when the camera cuts off, they're not living that life. But this is the life that they want us to see. So imagine that kid now growing up in the 70s, growing up in the 80s with nothing going for him, told he can't get a job, told he can't do nothing. And then the drug dealer that looks just like the one from the movie comes to him and say, hey man, I'll give you $50 if you deliver this here. I can pay you money. Your mama not in the house, your daddy not in the house. I'll take care of you. Now the drug dealer becomes who raised him.
Come on.
That's what destroys us. So the lesson, we're supposed to learn these lessons. These are all points of history. And you could say it was at a time where we're oppressed. We don't have the knowledge that we have today because we might not have had that knowledge. Listen, Martin Luther King was like one of the worst, if not the worst black man to exist in America.
Hey.
And anybody that wants to argue me down, Martin said he felt he was leading us into a burning house. So at best, if you still want to believe in some of the things Martin said, the house that he was leading us into has to go away. Or at least the fire got to get put out.
Come on.
You got to put the fire out before you bring us into there. But everybody that pumps Martin don't realize they're pumping his vision. And anytime a revolution comes up after that, so the Muslims is looked at and vilified. The Panthers is looked at and vilified. And they're allowed to be attacked because now they say, hey, man, you got to be like Martin. Martin's dream wasn't this. Martin's dream was little black boys and little white girls coming together. You know why? Because he liked white women.
Come on.
When we got to look at the reality, that dream was a nightmare. America is a nightmare. The only way you can turn that nightmare into a better dream is if we change the thought process.
Shout out Reallyfe Street Starz, nigga. Move it. Hey.